The arena was enormous. Harin stood in the center, breathing hard. Sweat dripped down her face as she finished the combat sequence. Around her, cadets from 40 different alien species watched from the stands. Some had 4 arms, others had scales or fur. A few floated in special gravity fields. But they all had one thing in common. They were all training to be soldiers in the Galactic Defense Force. Harin wiped her forehead and looked up at the scoreboard. Her time was good. Not the fastest, but solid. That was the human way. Never the strongest. Never the quickest. But always reliable. Always steady. She smiled a little. Her instructor would be proud. In the observation deck high above, 3 figures watched her through the glass. They were tall, nearly 7 feet each. Their skin looked like dark green scales that shifted color slightly in the light. They wore armor that seemed to move with them like a second skin. These were Vrex, the most feared hunters in the galaxy. The largest Vrex leaned forward. His name was Rathkul, and he was a master hunter. Behind his helmet, his eyes tracked Harin as she walked off the training floor. He made a low clicking sound that his companions understood as amusement. "That one," Rathkul said, pointing at Harin. "The human female. She will be our prey." Vexnor, his second in command, tilted his head. "She seems ordinary." "Why choose her?" "Exactly," Rathkul replied. "Humans are new to the galactic community. Soft mammals from a water world. I want something exotic for my collection. Besides, look at her. She kept going even when tired. It will be amusing to see how long she lasts when we hunt her." The third Vrex, Kazith, made a hissing laugh. "1 human against 10 of us. It will be over in hours." "Then we will make it last," Rathkul said. "Come, we have preparations to make." The Academy officials have been paid. Everything is arranged. Harin had no idea she was being watched. She walked to the locker room, grabbed her water bottle, and sat down. Her muscles ached. The drill had been tough, but she felt good about it. 3 months at the Galactic Defense Academy, and she was holding her own. Not bad for a human. "Nice work out there," a voice said. Harin looked up and saw Hyunwoo, her best friend from Earth. He grinned at her. "You made those Krillian cadets look slow." "They are stronger than me by 10 times, Harin said. "I just lasted longer." "That is what humans do best," Hyunwoo said. He sat beside her. "We outlast everything else. Remember that." Before Harin could respond, an announcement came over the speakers. "Cadet Harin Kang, report to Administrator Office immediately." Hyunwoo raised his eyebrows. "What did you do?" "Nothing," Harin said, confused. She stood up and headed for the door. "I will see you later." The Administrator Office was cold and official. A thin alien with gray skin and too many fingers sat behind the desk. He did not look at Harin when she entered. "Cadet Kang," he said in a flat voice. "You have been selected for advanced survival training. This is a great honor. You will deploy to Theta 7 Moon tomorrow morning for a 72-hour exercise." Harin blinked. "Survival training?" "Sir, I am only a first-year cadet. Usually only third-year students." "Your performance has been noted," the administrator interrupted. "The decision is made. Report to Launch Base 7 at 0600 hours dismissed." Harin wanted to ask more questions, but the administrator had already turned to his computer screen. She left the office feeling uncertain. Something felt wrong, but she could not explain what. That evening, she went to see Instructor Taewon Park. He was in his office reviewing training reports. When Harin told him about the survival exercise, his face went dark. "Theta 7, he said slowly. "Harin, that moon is dangerous. The wildlife there can kill trained soldiers. Why would they send a first year?" "The administrator said it was an honor," Harin replied. Instructor Park stood and walked to his weapons cabinet. He pulled out a small knife in a worn leather sheath. The blade was simple but sharp. It looked like it had seen many fights. "This was mine during my special operations days," he said, handing it to Harin. "Take it. The training blade they will give you is worthless. This one has kept me alive more times than I can count." Harin took the knife carefully. "Thank you, sir. But why do I feel like you are worried?" Instructor Park looked at her for a long moment. "Because I am. Harin, listen to me. You come from a species that survived everything Earth threw at it. Ice ages, predators, diseases, starvation. Your ancestors walked out of Africa with nothing but rocks and determination, and they conquered an entire planet. That is in your blood. If something goes wrong out there, remember what humans do best." "What is that?" Harin asked. "We survive," he said simply. "No matter what. We are still standing when everything else has fallen. Promise me you will remember that. I promise, Harin said. She did not fully understand his concern, but the weight of the knife in her hand felt comforting. The next morning came too quickly. Harin said goodbye to Hyunwoo at the launch bay. He made jokes about her jungle vacation, but his smile did not reach his eyes. The shuttle was small and automated. Harin sat alone as it lifted off and headed for Theta 7. Through the window, she watched the Academy station grow smaller. Then Theta 7 filled the view. It was covered in thick green jungle. From space, it looked beautiful. Harin checked her equipment. Standard survival pack, water purification tablets, emergency beacon, medical supplies, and Instructor Park's knife on her belt. The shuttle landed in a clearing. Harin stepped out into humid air. The jungle sounds surrounded her immediately. Insects buzzing, strange bird calls, something large moving in the distance. She activated her emergency beacon and checked the display on her wrist. It should have shown a green light. Instead, nothing. Beacon malfunction, she muttered. Great start. She tried the communicator. Dead. Backup systems. Dead. All of her emergency equipment was disabled. Harin felt the first touch of real fear. This was not a malfunction. This was deliberate. Someone had sabotaged her gear. The shuttle lifted off behind her, leaving her alone in the clearing. Harin took a deep breath and centered herself. Panic would not help. She needed to think. She had training. She had skills. She had Instructor Park's knife. She would make it through the 72 hours and figure out what happened when she got back. She started walking toward higher ground. In survival situations, height meant advantage. She could see further and find water sources. The jungle was thick, but she pushed through carefully. Every sense alert, every step measured. 2 hours later, she heard it. A sound that did not belong to any animal she knew. It was a call, deep and resonating. It echoed through the jungle trees. Harin froze. That was not wildlife. That was a hunting call. Someone was here, and they were announcing their presence. In the distance, 10 figures moved through the jungle. They wore advanced armor with active camouflage. They carried weapons that could kill from 1,000 yards, and they all wore distinctive helmets. Rex hunters, the most dangerous predators in the known galaxy. And they had come for Harin. Rothkul raised his head and clicked in satisfaction. The human has heard us. Let her run. Let her fear. The hunt begins now. Harin did not know what was coming for her yet, but every instinct screamed danger. She abandoned her plan for high ground. Right now she needed to move. She needed to hide. She needed to survive. And somewhere deep in her human DNA, ancient survival instincts began to wake up. The prey was about to become something these hunters had never faced before. Part 2. Harin moved through the darkness. She did not stop. Did not rest. Every sound made her heart jump. That hunting call still echoed in her mind. She knew what it meant now. This was not a training exercise. Someone was hunting her, and they wanted her to know it. She used every trick Instructor Park had taught her. She walked in streams to hide her footprints. She rubbed mud on her skin to mask her heat signature. She moved in zigzag patterns to confuse trackers. The jungle was dark and dangerous, but Harin kept moving. If she stopped, she would die. That much was clear. Dawn came slowly. Gray light filtered through the thick canopy above. Harin found a dense thicket and crouched inside it. Her body screamed for sleep, but she could only allow herself a few minutes. She checked her supplies. Water was okay. Food would last another day. But without communications, she was completely alone. Then she saw them. The signs. Broken branches at exactly 7 feet high. Too high for her. Disturbed earth in a clear line. Marks on trees that formed arrows. Someone was tracking her, and they wanted her to know they were close. This was not just hunting. This was psychological warfare. Harin felt anger rise in her chest. Good. Anger was better than fear. Anger kept you sharp. She studied the marks carefully. The tracker was methodical and professional, but they were also arrogant. They were leaving obvious signs because they did not think she was a threat. That was a mistake. A big mistake. She set up her own trail. She broke branches in one direction, then carefully backtracked. She disturbed ground to make it look like she ran. Then she found a narrow ravine with a shallow stream. She covered herself in mud and plant matter until she looked like part of the landscape. Then she submerged herself in the water under an overhanging bank. Only her nose and eyes were above the surface. Harin waited. Minutes passed like hours. Her muscles cramped from staying still. The cold water numbed her skin. But she did not move. Could not move. This was the game now. Patience versus aggression. Then she saw it. A shimmer in the air near her false trail. Active camouflage. The kind that cost more than most starships. The shimmer moved carefully, following the marks she had left. It was shaped like a person but taller, much taller. The shimmer stopped at the edge of the ravine. For a long moment, nothing happened. Harin forced herself to breathe slowly through her nose, in, out, like she was already dead. Just another piece of the jungle. The shimmer moved down toward the ravine, closer, closer. Then it stopped next to something Harin had prepared. Her jacket stuffed with leaves and mud, made to look like a body hiding in the plants. The shimmer reached down. As it touched the dummy, it deactivated its camouflage. Harin saw him clearly now. Tall, covered in dark green scales, wearing high-tech armor. A Vrex. She recognized the species from Academy xenobiology classes. Apex predators, natural hunters, and this one had just made a fatal error. He thought he had found her. Kazith pulled the jacket up, expecting to find the human. Instead, leaves spilled out. His moment of confusion was all Harin needed. She exploded from the water behind him. Instructor Park's knife in her hand. She had studied Vrex anatomy. She knew where the neural cluster was. Base of the skull, just below the helmet line. One precise strike. The blade went in clean. Kazith made a choking sound and fell forward. He was dead before he hit the ground. Harin stood over him, breathing hard. Her hands shook. She had just killed someone. Not in a simulation. Not in a drill. Real death, but there was no time for shock. Harin forced herself to think. She searched the body quickly. Advanced weapons. A helmet with a sophisticated display. And on that display she saw 9 other signals. 9 more hunters. Her blood went cold. 10 Vrex hunters for 1 human cadet. This was not a random attack. This was planned. This was murder disguised as sport. Harin took the helmet and the smallest weapon she could carry. Then she dragged the body to the middle of the clearing. She positioned it where it would be found easily. Let them see what happened. Let them know she was not helpless prey. She was dangerous. Through the stolen helmet, Harin listened to their communications. The language was alien, but the helmet had translation software. She heard the moment they found Kazith. Impossible, one voice said. The human killed him, how? Another voice, deeper and colder. It does not matter how. What matters is that our prey has teeth. Good. I was getting bored. Now the hunt is interesting. That had to be the leader. Rath Kul. Harin listened as he gave orders. They were splitting into 3 groups. Surrounding her, moving in a coordinated pattern. These were professionals. She could not fight them head-on. But she did not need to. She just needed to survive. And maybe, just maybe, she needed to make them afraid. Over the next hours, Harin became a ghost. She used the helmet to track their movements. When one group got too close, she moved away. When they rested, she set traps. Simple traps at first. Tripwires connected to rocks, sharpened sticks hidden in undergrowth. But then she started using their own technology against them. She found a second hunter, Groktar, one of the heavy assault specialists. He was big even for a Vrex. He crashed through the jungle like he owned it. Harin led him to an area where she had spent 2 hours preparing. The ground looked solid. It was not. Beneath a thin layer of branches and leaves was a 15-foot drop onto sharp rocks. Groktar fell through. The impact did not kill him immediately. Harin heard him roaring in pain. She climbed down carefully. He saw her coming and tried to raise his weapon. His legs were broken. His armor cracked. But he was still alive. Still dangerous, he gasped. You are just a human, soft, weak. Harin looked at him. Humans are not weak. We are persistent. There is a difference, she ended it quickly. No reason to let him suffer. She took his helmet and weapons. 2 down, 8 to go. But Harin was not celebrating. She was exhausted. Her body was reaching its limits. She had been awake for almost 30 hours. Most species would have collapsed by now. But humans had evolved as persistence hunters. They could keep going when others fell. Still, she needed rest. Just a little. Harin found a tree with thick branches high above the ground. She climbed up and wedged herself in. She tied herself to the trunk with strips from her jacket so she would not fall if she dozed. Then she let herself close her eyes for 30 minutes. Not real sleep. Just enough to take the edge off the exhaustion. The helmet woke her. Voices. The Vreks were arguing among themselves. Vexnor, the second in command, was questioning Rathkul's tactics. We have lost 2 hunters. This is not a normal prey. We should what? Rathkul interrupted. Run, retreat? No, the human got lucky twice. It will not happen again. From now on, no honor protocols. Killer on sight. Use any means necessary. Harin smiled grimly. Good. Let them drop their honor codes. Let them get desperate. Desperate hunters made mistakes. And Harin was learning fast. She understood their patterns now. Understood how they moved and thought. She climbed down from the tree and checked her supplies. The Vreks weapons were powerful but complicated. She would need time to figure them out properly. For now, Instructor Park's knife was still her best friend. Simple, reliable, deadly in the right hands. Harin looked at the 2 helmets she had collected. She thought about what Instructor Park had said. Humans survived everything. They outlasted ice ages and predators and disasters. These Vreks thought they were apex predators. They had never met a species that evolved on Earth. A planet so hostile it created survivors by nature. She activated the communication system on one helmet. When the Vreks channel opened, she spoke clearly in their language. The Academy had taught her basic Vreks. Now she was glad she had paid attention. Hello, hunters, she said. This is Cadet Harin Kang. I have your friend's helmets. Would you like them back? Come and get them. If you can. The response was immediate, roaring, threats, promises of slow death. Harin turned off the communication and smiled. Good. Let them be angry. Angry hunters made even more mistakes. And she was just getting started. This was going to be a long 72 hours. But Harin Kang was human. And humans did not know how to quit. Part 3, 48 hours. Harin had been running, fighting, and surviving for 2 full days. Her body should have given up. Most alien species would have collapsed from exhaustion by now. But Harin was human. And humans evolved to outlast everything else. She had not slept more than 30 minutes at a time. Her muscles ached. Her cuts and bruises throbbed. But she kept moving. That was the human advantage. Not strength. Not speed, endurance, pure, stubborn endurance. The Vreks were struggling. Harin could hear it in their communications. They needed 8 hours of torpor every cycle to function. Their biology required it. Harin attacked during these periods. She sabotaged their equipment, destroyed their supplies, made noise to wake them up. Psychological warfare combined with hit-and-run tactics. The hunters were becoming the hunted. She caught the 3rd hunter during one of these raids. Yilnex, a ranged weapons specialist. He had been on watch while the others rested. But even he was tired. Harin saw him fighting to stay awake. She made a deliberate noise to his left. When he turned to investigate, she came from the right. The fight was brutal and quick. Yilnex was trained for distance combat. Up close, he was less effective. Harin was smaller, weaker, but she fought dirty. Eyes, throat, joints, all the vulnerable spots. When it was over, she took his helmet. 3 down, 7 to go, but Harin paid a price. Yilnex had landed a hit before he died. Her ribs were bruised, maybe cracked. Every breath hurt. She wrapped them as best she could with material from his uniform. Pain was just information. It told her she was still alive. Still fighting. She led them on a chase through the worst terrain on the moon. Toxic mudflats that burned skin. Steam vents that could cook you alive. Ravines that had no bottom. The Vreks were faster in short bursts. But Harin kept the pace steady. Hour after hour, they would sprint to catch up. She would be gone before they arrived. Then she would set another trap. Create another delay. Make them chase again. It was called persistence hunting. Human ancestors on Earth had perfected it. Chase an antelope for hours under the hot sun. The antelope was faster, but it had to stop and rest. Humans did not. They just kept walking. Kept tracking. Kept pursuing until the prey collapsed from heat and exhaustion. Harin was doing the same thing to the Vreks. On the 3rd day, she heard them breaking. Vexnor was arguing with Rathkul again through the communications. This is madness, Vexnor said. The human does not stop. She does not rest. How is this possible? She is one small mammal. Rathkul roared. We are Vreks. We are the apex predators of the galaxy. Then why are 3 of us dead? Vexnor shot back. Why are we the ones being hunted? I say we call for extraction, regroup, come back with more hunters. No, Rathkul said. I will not be humiliated by a human. We finish this now. Harin smiled as she listened. Good. They were fracturing. Fear and exhaustion were breaking their unit cohesion. That was when hunters became most dangerous and most vulnerable. Desperate moves could kill her. But desperate moves also meant mistakes. The tech specialist made such a mistake. Zonkir tried to call for extraction without Rathkul knowing. Harin intercepted the transmission and traced the signal. She found him alone, working on his communications equipment. He was so focused on his tech that he did not hear her approach. 4 helmets. 4 dead Vreks. Harin was beyond exhaustion now. She was running on something primal. Something that existed before civilization. Before language. The part of humanity that survived when everything else died. The part that walked out of Africa and conquered a planet. She found a cave and collapsed inside. Just for an hour. She needed rest or she would die. Harin set up crude alarms at the entrance. Rocks balanced on sticks. If anything moved them, they would fall and wake her. Then she let herself sink into sleep. She dreamed of Earth, of running through forests with her brother when they were children. He had always been faster, but she had always caught up. Always kept going. He died in the Academy entrance trials. Some test that pushed too hard. Harin had promised herself she would finish what he started. She would graduate. She would honor his memory. The sound of falling rocks woke her. Harin was on her feet instantly, knife in hand. But it was not an attacker, just a small native animal that had disturbed her alarm. She checked the time. She had slept for 90 minutes. Longer than planned, but her body had needed it. Back at the Galactic Defense Academy, Instructor Park was discovering the truth. He had kept investigating the unusual training assignment. Something felt wrong from the beginning. Now he had proof. The authorization was forged. The officials who approved it had received large payments from an unknown source. This was not a training exercise. It was attempted murder. Park brought the evidence to Commander Nam, the human ambassador to the Galactic Council. She looked at the documents with cold fury. Someone had tried to kill one of her cadets, and they thought they would get away with it. How long until we can send a rescue team? Park asked. 24 hours minimum, Nam replied. The Council needs to authorize military action on Theta 7. Bureaucracy takes time. Harin might not have 24 hours, Park said quietly. Then we better hope she is as stubborn as her species, Nam said, because stubbornness is all she has left. On Theta 7, Harin was proving exactly how stubborn humans could be. She had found one of the heavy assault specialists, Thexom, separated from the group. He was massive even for a Vrex. His armor was thick, his weapons powerful. In a straight fight, Harin would lose in seconds, so she did not fight him. She led him to an area where native predators nested, large aggressive creatures with acid for blood. Harin had scouted this area earlier. She knew the creatures were territorial, knew they attacked anything that got too close to their nests. She led Thexom right through their territory. The Vrex was so focused on chasing her that he did not see the danger until too late. The creatures swarmed him. His armor protected him from the first attacks, but there were too many. Harin watched from a safe distance as nature did her work for her. 5 helmets, 5 dead hunters. The odds were getting better. But Harin was at her limit. She had cuts everywhere. Bruises covered her body. Her ribs screamed with every breath. She was dehydrated and starting to hallucinate from lack of sleep. But she was still standing. Still fighting. Still alive. She activated the communication system again. This time she did not taunt them. She educated them. Do you know what humans are? She asked in Vrex. We are not the strongest, not the fastest, not the smartest. But we have something you will never understand. We do not know how to quit. Our ancestors chased prey for days until it collapsed. They survived ice ages that killed everything else. They conquered a planet so hostile that most species call it a death world. You chose to hunt a human. You chose wrong. The only response was silence. Then Rathkul spoke. His voice had changed. Less arrogant now. More cautious. You have proven yourself human. Surrender now. We will give you a warrior death. Quick and honorable. No, Harin said simply. You will surrender. Or you will join your friends. Those are your only options. She turned off the communication. Let them think about that. Let them understand that they were not dealing with normal prey. They were dealing with something that evolution had spent millions of years perfecting. A persistence predator. A survivor. A human. Harin looked at the 5 helmets she had collected. 5 lives taken. She felt no pride in it. Only grim necessity. This was survival. Pure and simple. And she was very good at surviving. The sun was setting on the 3rd day. 72 hours were almost up. But Harin knew there would be no rescue. The sabotaged equipment proved that. She was on her own. Just her against 5 more Vrex hunters. The next day would decide everything. Live or die. Survive or fall. Harin Kang checked her weapons, tightened the wrapping on her ribs, and prepared for the final confrontation. She was tired. She was hurt. But she was human. And humans did not quit. Harin found the ruins just before dawn on the 4th day. They were ancient, built by some civilization that died long ago. Stone walls covered in alien writing, collapsed columns, a central chamber with a partially intact roof. And best of all, it sat in a box canyon with only one way in. Perfect. She had been leading the remaining 5 Vrex here all night, leaving obvious trails, making it easy for them to follow. They probably thought they had her cornered. They were half right. This was the end game. But Harin was not trapped here with them. They were trapped here with her. Harin spent the next 6 hours preparing. She used everything she had learned, every trick, every tactic, every piece of stolen Vrex technology. She placed plasma charges on tripwires. She created false floors that would collapse into spike pits. She reprogrammed one of the Vrex security drones she had captured earlier, setting it to fire on anything with a Vrex heat signature. In the center of the ruins, she arranged the 5 helmets in a circle, like a monument, like a warning. Then she used blood from her own wounds to write a message on the stone floor in Vrex script. The translation was simple. Join them. When everything was ready, Harin climbed to a high position among the broken columns. She could see the entire killing ground from here. She checked Instructor Park Knife one more time. The blade was still sharp. Still reliable. It had killed 5 Vrex hunters. It would kill more before this day ended. The Vrex arrived at midday. Harin watched them through the scope of a stolen weapon. 5 figures moving cautiously through the canyon entrance. Rathkul in the lead, Vexnor close behind. 3 others whose names she had learned from intercepted communications. Nalvor, Pakter, Helvak. They saw the ruins and stopped. Even from this distance, Harin could see them communicating, debating. Vexnor was pointing back the way they came, probably suggesting retreat, but Rathkul was shaking his head. The Master Hunter pride would not let him walk away. Not now. Not after losing half his pack to one human. They entered the ruins. Harin activated the first trap remotely. A plasma charge detonated near the entrance, blocking the way out. The explosion made the Vrex scatter and take defensive positions. Good. Keep them off balance. Keep them reactive instead of proactive. Nalvor, the stealth specialist, activated his camouflage and moved toward the central chamber. He was careful, professional, but Harin had anticipated this. She had set proximity mines along all the logical approach routes. Nalvor stepped on one. The explosion was massive. When the smoke cleared, there was nothing left but his helmet. 6 down. The remaining 4 Vrex rushed forward, trying to overwhelm any defenses through speed and aggression. Pakdur, the ranged specialist, took point. He never saw the reprogrammed drone. It emerged from the rubble where Harin had hidden it and opened fire. Pakdur armor held for a few seconds, but the drone had been loaded with Vrex military-grade ammunition. His armor cracked, then failed. 7 down. Helvak, the tech specialist, tried to hack Harin's systems, shut down her traps remotely. But Harin had been ready for this too. She had set up false networks, dead ends, and one network that looked vulnerable but was actually a trap. When Helvak connected to it, his own equipment overloaded. The feedback surge was powerful enough to cook him inside his armor. 8 down, only Rathkul and Vexnor remained. They reached the central chamber and saw the circle of helmets. Saw the message written in blood. Harin watched as Vexnor slowly removed his own helmet. The second in command looked directly at her hiding spot. Somehow he knew she was there. Enough, Vexnor said in Galactic Standard. You have won, human. The hunt is over. I surrender. Harin stood up from her position. She kept her weapon trained on them both. Vexnor laid his weapons on the ground, slowly, carefully, showing he was no threat. Harin felt a strange respect for this one. He was a hunter, yes, but he was also smart enough to know when he had lost. Rathkul did not share his second opinion. The Master Hunter roared in fury and turned on Vexnor. Coward! Traitor, I should have known you were weak. Rathkul's massive claws tore through Vexnor armor like paper. The second in command fell without a sound. Rathkul stood over the body, breathing hard. Then he looked up at Harin. 9 down. Just you and me now, human, Rathkul said. No more tricks. No more traps. Just a warrior and her prey, as it should be. Harin climbed down from her perch. I am not prey. Not anymore. You made me this. You wanted a hunt. Now you have one. They faced each other in the center of the ruins. Rathkul was enormous. 7 feet of muscle and scale and rage. His weapons were advanced. His armor was the best Rex technology. Harin was 5'7", exhausted, wounded, and armed with a knife and stolen gear that she barely knew how to use. Rathkul attacked first. He was fast for his size. His claws whistled through the air where Harin had been a moment before. She rolled away and came up firing the stolen plasma weapon. The shots hit his armor but did not penetrate. Rathkul laughed. Pathetic. Is this the best humans can do? Harin did not waste breath on a response. She kept moving. Kept dodging. Let him tire himself out. But Rathkul was not stupid. He knew what she was doing. He changed tactics. Instead of wild attacks, he became methodical, patient. He started cutting off her escape routes, herding her into corners. They fought through the ruins. Harin used every advantage she could find. She threw debris at his eyes. She collapsed unstable walls in his path. She led him over her own traps, though he was smart enough to avoid most of them. But slowly, inevitably, he was winning. Harin was slowing down. Her wounds were taking their toll. Rathkul's blade finally connected. It pierced her shoulder, driving deep. Harin screamed. The pain was incredible. Rathkul twisted the blade, and she felt something tear inside. She was pinned against a stone column, trapped. The Master Hunter leaned close, his breath hot on her face. You fought well, human. Better than any prey I have hunted. But this is the end. You have nothing left. Harin looked up at him. Blood ran down her arm. Her vision was starting to blur, but she smiled. You are wrong. I have one thing left. What is that? Stubbornness. Instead of trying to pull away from the blade, Harin pushed forward. She drove herself deeper onto Rathkul's weapon. The pain was beyond description, but it brought her close. Close enough to use Instructor Park Knife. One thrust, through the eye socket, into the brain. The same kill she had used on Kazeth. The same kill that evolution had taught humans was most effective. Rathkul made a gurgling sound and fell backward. Harin fell with him, still impaled on his blade. They hit the ground together. For a moment, neither moved. Then Harin forced herself to pull free. She screamed again as the blade came out. But she was alive. Rathkul was not. Harin crawled to where Rathkul's helmet had fallen. She picked it up with shaking hands. 10 helmets. 10 dead hunters. She had done what should have been impossible. She had survived. She activated the emergency beacon from Rathkul's equipment. The display showed green. Working perfectly. Of course it was. He was the leader. His gear would be reliable. Harin sent the distress signal and then collapsed against the stone wall. She could not move anymore. Could barely think. But she had won. Against all odds. Against all logic, she had survived. Hours later, she heard the sound of engines, multiple ships landing outside the canyon. Harin tried to stand, but her body would not cooperate. Then she heard a familiar voice shouting her name. Instructor Park. He found her sitting among the 10 helmets. Blood everywhere. Barely conscious, but alive. Park dropped to his knees beside her and checked her wounds. Medical teams rushed in behind him. They started working immediately. Harin looked up at her instructor through blurry eyes. Tell them, she whispered. Tell them we are not prey. I will, Park promised. The whole galaxy will know. You made sure of that. Harin closed her eyes. She had nothing left to give. Everything hurt. But she was alive. She was safe. She was going home. As the medical teams lifted her onto a stretcher, she held tight to one thing. Instructor Park Knife, the blade that had saved her life, the blade that had proven what humans could do when pushed to the edge. She was not letting it go. Not now, not ever. Harin woke up 3 days later in the Academy Medical Center. Her body was covered in bandages and medical sensors. Everything hurt, but the pain was distant. Managed by drugs. She tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. A firm hand pushed her back down. "Stay still, Cadet," Instructor Park said. "You are lucky to be alive. Your shoulder will heal, but it needs time. So do your ribs. And the dozen other injuries the doctors catalogued." Harin looked at him. "How long was I out?" 3 days. "You needed surgery and a lot of medical intervention, but you are going to make a full recovery." Park smiled slightly. "You are tougher than most species give humans credit for." "The Vrex?" Harin asked. "All dead. We recovered the bodies, and the helmets. 10 of them, just like you said." Park's expression grew serious. "Harin, what you did was impossible. 1 human against 10 master hunters. The galaxy is talking about nothing else." Harin closed her eyes. "I just survived. That is all." "No," Park said firmly. "You did more than survive. You proved something. About humans. About what we can do when we have to. The Galactic Council has called an emergency session. The Virex Guild is demanding your prosecution for murder. They claim it was a legitimate training exercise." Harin opened her eyes. "It was not. They sabotaged my equipment. They hunted me, we know. We have proof." The corrupt officials confessed everything when faced with evidence. "Commander Nam is handling the political side. She wants you to testify before the council when you are well enough." "How long until the hearing?" Harin asked. 1 week. "But you do not have to testify if you are not ready. Nam can handle it without you." Harin shook her head. "No, I will testify. They tried to kill me. They need to face me." 1 week later, Harin entered the Galactic Council chamber in a hover chair. Her shoulder was still healing. She could walk, but not for long periods. The chamber was enormous. Representatives from 300 species filled the seats. At the center was the Vrex delegation, led by an ancient hunter named Crethmore. He was the guildmaster, the one who had authorized countless hunts across the galaxy. Commander Nam stood beside Harin. She was a sharp woman in a formal uniform. She had spent the week building their case. Now it was time to present it. Crethmore spoke first. "The human killed 10 of our finest hunters," he said. "She used illegal tactics, traps, ambushes, cowardly methods. This was not honorable combat. We demand she be expelled from the academy and prosecuted under galactic law." Commander Nam stepped forward. "The defense presents evidence that this was not a sanctioned training exercise. That academy officials were bribed to arrange an illegal hunt. That Cadet Kang equipment was deliberately sabotaged. That she was hunted by 10 armed professionals while unarmed and alone. Everything she did was self-defense. She displayed the evidence on the chamber main screen. Financial records, confessions, technical analysis of the sabotaged equipment." The council representatives murmured among themselves. The case was clear, but the Vrex were powerful. They had allies. The vote would be close, then the council chair spoke. "We will hear testimony from the survivor. Cadet Kang, approach." Harin guided her hover chair to the center of the chamber. 300 species watched her, some with curiosity, some with sympathy, some with fear. She looked up at them and spoke clearly. "I am not a warrior," she began. "I am a student. I was sent to what I thought was a training exercise. Instead, I was hunted. 10 Vrex hunters announced their presence with a hunting call. They could have killed me in the first hour, but they wanted sport. They wanted me to be afraid to run, to die slowly." She paused and looked directly at Crethmore. "They made a mistake. They assumed humans were easy prey, soft mammals from a safe world. They did not know that Earth is what most species call a death world. They did not know that humans evolved as persistence predators, that we survived everything our planet threw at us. Ice ages, megafauna, diseases, we survived because we do not quit, ever." Harin activated a holographic display. It showed the 10 helmets arranged in a circle. "I did not want to kill them. I wanted to survive. Each death was necessary. Each one was self-defense. I used every advantage I had. My training, my intelligence, my species' evolutionary gifts. And yes, I used traps and ambushes, because I was one unarmed cadet against 10 armored hunters. What did they expect? A fair fight?" The chamber was silent. Harin continued. "The Vrex call themselves apex predators, the greatest hunters in the galaxy, but they never hunted a human before. They never faced a species that refuses to accept death. That keeps fighting even when injured. That turns every disadvantage into a weapon. They wanted a hunt. I gave them one. And they lost?" She looked around the chamber. "If the council rules that I was wrong to defend myself, Then you are saying any species can hunt any cadet without consequence. Is that the precedent you want to set? Harin returned to her position beside Commander Nam. The council debated for hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The evidence was overwhelming, and Harin's testimony had shifted the narrative. She was not a murderer. She was a survivor. The final ruling came 3 days later. The Vrex Guild was fined massive reparations. They were banned from unsanctioned hunts for 50 years. The corrupt Academy officials faced criminal charges, and humanity was formally recognized as having full rights within the galactic community. No more testing. No more challenges. Full acceptance. Most importantly, the Council implemented the Kang Protocol, named after Harin. Any species that attacked an Academy cadet would face immediate sanctions and expulsion from the Academy system. Harin's survival had created galactic law, but Harin did not feel victorious. She felt tired. The nightmares came every night. She saw the faces of the Vrex she had killed, heard their final moments, felt the impact of blade on flesh. She had done what was necessary, but it still haunted her. Instructor Park found her one evening on an observation deck. She was staring out at the stars. He sat beside her without speaking. After a long silence, Harin finally talked. "I killed 10 people," she said quietly. 10 lives ended because of me. 10 hunters who chose to kill you, Park replied. They made their choice. You made yours. You chose to live. Never apologize for that. Does it get easier? The memories? No, Park said honestly. But you learn to carry them. You honor the necessity of what you did without celebrating it. You remember that you are still here because you were strong enough to do what was needed. Harin touched the knife on her belt. Park knife. It had saved her life. Now it was hers to keep. A reminder of what she survived, what she overcame. The Academy offered me advanced rank, Harin said. Immediate graduation. But I turned it down. Why? Because I survived, but I want to do more than survive. I want to excel. I want to finish my training properly. Learn everything I can. So the next time someone threatens me or anyone else, I am ready. Not just to survive, but to win decisively, Park smiled. That is the right answer. You have time. Use it to become better, stronger. Not just physically, but mentally. Process what happened. Learn from it. Over the next weeks, Harin returned to classes. Other cadets treated her differently now. Some with awe, some with fear, some with respect. She had become a legend. The human who killed 10 Vrex hunters. The cadet who survived the impossible. But Harin did not feel like a legend. She felt like a student who had been pushed to the edge and found something inside herself she did not know was there. A core of pure determination, a refusal to quit, the same thing that drove her ancestors to conquer Earth, the same thing that made humans dangerous when threatened. Hyunwoo found her in the training room one day. She was working through combat drills, slower than before because of her injuries, but still pushing herself. You are famous now, he said. Every human on Earth knows your name. You are a hero. Harin stopped and looked at him. I am not a hero. I just did not die. That is what heroes do, Hyunwoo said. They do not die when they should. They keep going. They survive. And you showed the entire galaxy that humans belong here, that we are not weak, not prey, not inferior. We are survivors. And that is the most dangerous thing to be. Harin thought about that. Maybe he was right. Maybe her survival meant something beyond just one-person life. Maybe it changed how the galaxy saw humanity. Maybe those 10 helmets represented more than just 10 victories. Maybe they represented proof. Proof that humans deserved respect, deserved a place among the stars, deserved to be taken seriously. 3 months after the hunt, Harin walked past the Hall of Honor. The Academy had created a display. 10 Vrex helmets arranged in a circle, a plaque underneath with her name. The inscription was simple. She survived. That was enough. That said everything. As Harin stood there, a group of young cadets approached. They were from various species, including 3 young Vrex. One of them stepped forward nervously. Cadet Kang, the young Vrex said in careful galactic standard. We have studied your tactics, your survival methods. Would you be willing to train with us? To teach us what you learned? Harin looked at them. These were not the arrogant hunters who tried to kill her. These were students, young beings trying to learn and grow. She saw genuine respect in their eyes. Not fear, not hatred, Just the desire to learn from someone who survived the impossible. Yes, Harin said.